We got JJ with us today, the Mayor of Elgin. Just jump into it, give us your background, and then kind of how you led up to be the Mayor of Elgin, and then we'll talk a little bit of football.
Well, so, grew up in a nonprofit world, got out of college, wanted to help nonprofits raise money, fundraising, that kind of stuff. Worked for a child advocacy group for a while and decided I wanted to try newspapers. And worked my way up from a beat reporter to where I'm at now, publisher of a newspaper. And really, I tell people the reason I ran for mayor is I was trying to find somebody to be mayor, trying to talk somebody else into it. The only person that ever said they wanted to be mayor was a lady that said she wanted to do building moratorium on building permits and stop all the building in Elgin. Well, the problem is Fifth Amendment of the Constitution says, that's where all your property rights come from. You own the land, you can build on it.
Yeah.
And so people keep saying, how do we stop the building in Elgin? Here's the thing. If you own that property, you can build on it. We can't stop you. But we can manage growth in a smart way and ensure that we grow appropriately and smartly.
As far as being on the Board of Regents for USAO, what all does that require of you doing?
Well, so USAO is where I went to college at. It's not just where I got my education from. It's really where I, came into myself. Yeah. And so that was a lifelong goal of mine. When I get old, I want to be a regent at USAO. And I achieved it fairly young. But it's, it's interesting because you get to see, all the sausage making of running a university, numbers. you vote on the budget. And like City Hall, by the way, like being on City Council, sometimes you think it's going to be a small debate because it's, relatively inconsequential, and it winds up being the item with the most debate. And sometimes you've got a big project, you think, okay, it's going to be a fight, and you got to lay it all out, and then you've come to find out everybody's on the same page. The USAO budget's bigger than the city budget, but again, it's, working with your peers to have the best change.
So you got a history degree from there, right?
Yes.
Correct. What made you choose a history degree?
My kind of passion in life or whatever is history from Articles of Confederation forward. I'm not antiquities. I'm not, pre-America stuff.
Right.
But everything that's American history from Articles of Confederation forward, I love. And so went to USAO, and there was a history professor at the time, and his thing was the bulk of your grade, 80% was often based on, 2 tests and 1 paper. Right. Didn't matter if you showed up to class. It didn't matter. That was your grade. And so I could go out and volunteer and, do crazy things in the community and then and not show up to class, which in hindsight, I wish I'd have been a little bit more responsible. Right.
But he laid that out for you, so you took advantage of it.
But, you write one 15, 20-page paper, you take 2 tests, and you could pull off a B or a C pretty easy. Right. And at the end of the day, I still wanted to go out and volunteer. I still love being a part of the community. Been that way since I was a little kid. My mom raised me that way. History degree was just the easiest one to do that with. In hindsight, business degree probably would have been more useful. But again, it's who I am. And having a history degree, it did kind of prepare me to write and spend some time in newspapers. And like I said, I was a beat reporter for several years. I was a community news editor in Chickasha at a weekly there, and always producing content. And now that I'm a publisher, now I tell people what to produce. It's not near as much fun. The awards don't have my name on them. But now I get my hands in 20 stories a week instead of 3.
Yeah.
JJ and I sit on a couple of boards together and things like that. And so one thing I can say is JJ will entertain you with some interesting history facts and things like that throughout the day as you are sitting in some of those meetings and whatnot. And it's and like I said, history does kind of suit you the way that we discuss things and certain things like that.
But it's one of those things where you sit on the board, whether it's Chamber of Commerce, whether it's City Council, Planning Commission, whatever the board is, you've got to go in there and understand that, okay, I know some stuff, I don't know everything, and then go back out and research it and
try to put things in perspective.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part.
And the biggest thing is you got to take your blinders off and try to see the biggest possible picture.
And so you became mayor in 21. Okay. So you've kind of been in Elgin now. Oh, you've been in Elgin for a while now, but so became mayor in 21. So you've kind of seen kind of the resurgence of Elgin athletics and kind of the school system moving from a 4A school to a 5A school. Talk about the importance of, like I said, we've got a great ag program. The band is, getting awards every year. What is it, 11 in a row or whatnot? Softball, baseball went to state. Now, obviously, football's in the quarterfinals and then the playoffs last year. Talk about how all that kind of plays into your job as mayor, and then also kind of how that puts a spotlight on our community and what that means for us as a community and as a small city.
So, we're a growing city, no doubt, but we are a 5A school in realistically a 3A town.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. We're really unique in this sense. You look at our stands, right? And they're packed.
Yeah.
I mean, last week was darn near standing room only. And I guarantee you, if there wouldn't have been anybody if they had pushed those concession stand people into the stands, I mean, it'd been standing room only.
Right.
Here's what a strong athletic, strong ag program, and definitely a strong band program give us. And that is a sense of community.
Yeah.
And so, you go to some of these other, what I'll call boom towns, modern day boom town where, basically you're just picking up the bleed over from a bigger city.
Right.
And we've seen it. We've seen it on the road. We've seen it here where these teams don't travel. We go up and we played
Midwest City, and we've got more people in the stands than them.
I wasn't going to name them, but, you go to Midwest City, we had 4 people to every one of their one, right? Here's the thing is, again, we show pictures of our stands, and prospective business owners understand that we have a strong sense of community, understand that we are one. And so we have that where a lot of these, boom towns, these 5A, the schools that were 3, now 5A, they don't have that. And so, again, it's just tougher. Because, by the way, since September 1, I've given 8 tours to prospective businesses.
Wow.
And, these are restaurants, some retail, and so forth. But they all come in here and they're like, well, you only have 3,400 people. You only have 3,600 people. I'm like, no, we are a 5A school.
Right.
We draw from northern Comanche County. Yes, we draw business from Fletcher and Sterling and Medicine Park. But guys, if you take those 3 towns out, even the Comanche County alone, just the people that are solely county residents, is still a fairly large number. But again, we pull commerce from all these surrounding towns. And again, like all these 8 businesses, I pulled up pictures of our stands and just impressed upon them, 5A school. And guys, look how strong our community is.
Yeah. Superintendent Mraz kind of talked about it a little bit last week when we had him on. How that all helps. Obviously having playoff games and getting people from Piedmont down this week, getting people down from Claremore, all that helps the economy. Kind of touch on how that helps the economy with the sales tax, kind of bring in some of those new business, kind of touch on that a little, and kind of, for those that don't know kind of how that part of the thing works, what that means for us as a city and ultimately what that means for us as a school system and everything else.
So, by the way, last week, Piedmont came in. There were Piedmont people in the brewery. There were people in Piedmont people in Burrito Mico, and there were Piedmont people in Boom Paws, right? Mm-hmm. But not just that. Take out the handful of fans from Piedmont that came, because they should have brought more, and I really wish they would have, right? From a sales tax standpoint, bring your entire town to Elgin.
Right.
Take all them out, though, and our people, were in those restaurants considerably more than they were on another day.
Okay.
So, again, it gives us a bubble of sales tax. By the way, sales tax is how we build roads, how we pay for a police department, fire department. Everything we do, we live and die by sales tax. And so it's all interconnected. It's all important. But here's the thing, though. When you have a winning program, you have a sense of identity. You have a sense of, culture around this Elgin. We are Elgin becomes a thing. And so, I moved here in I think that's when I moved here, either 18 or 19. And, I remember seasons that weren't winning seasons.
Right.
And I remember going to the stands and looking around, like, there's people here, but then, like, the one thing I remember is the pep rally night. I mean, that the stands were packed for a pep rally.
Right.
That's impressive.
Right.
And it really shows that we have that sense of community that, like I said, a lot of these boomtowns don't.
Well, and that's something, like you said, I mean, that you're selling to prospective retailers, prospective restaurants, whoever that may be. Like I said, I mean, there might be 3,600 people in the town, but at the end of the day, they're all involved. They're all bought in. They're all here. They're spending their money here and in Texas. So come on in and be a part of this. I mean, that's pretty cool that you can show how football is affecting that, and you show the stands and some of that type of stuff. That's a pretty cool deal for, like I said, some people might not think of it from that perspective. And I mean, it does. I mean, it is fun right now. I mean,
it's fun to be an Elgin fan.
Right. And I mean, it's a good time to be an Elgin fan. I mean,
it is.
Like I said, I mean, nothing against anybody in the past, because Elgin's always been a very loyal community and things like that. But when things are going well, I mean, it just helps everybody rally together. And I mean, it's a common goal and a common thread. And then it also helps that we're being coached by a group of good men. And then the kids that are playing on the team are also come from good families and things like that. Talk a little bit. I mean, you had the pleasure this summer, I think, of kind of having the team help you do some community projects and things, right?
So we've had them out, I think 3 different times, and we'll get an estimate to clean up a ditch line. And I mean, I have one estimate, $76,000 to clean up this ditch. We don't have the money. Like, it's just not going to happen. And so we've went in, we used football team, we've used a variety of volunteer labor, and we've gotten this ditch down to where it'd be about $40,000 now. I'm going to get this ditch down to where it's $10,000 worth of cleanup, and then we can be done with it and move on. But I mean, again, we've had them out 2 big times. I remember I called the 1911 culvert. It's north of Boom Paws. They came down and helped us burn off a ton of brush and everything else. And you see a lot of volunteer projects around the state, and sometimes it's like the football team picking up trash, or the football team, like,
a photo op.
It's a photo op.
Right.
It's exactly what it is. And, the coaches come out, and I remember Castro saying, no, like, hey, we're here at work. And, I mean, they had work gloves, and I mean, they were literally moving logs and, really making a difference. Because, I mean, I'll give you the photo op, volunteer opportunity.
Right.
But what I really need is to get some work done and move the goalpost, so to speak.
Right.
And so it's always...
And who's better to work than a bunch of strong 14 to 18-year-olds there?
Well, and then, by the way, what's really cool is when you get 2 or 3 of them and one will say, it's kind of heavy, and the other one says, no, I
Yeah.
And then they're competing with each other. I mean, like, yeah, it gets done. So, I mean, you guys are the football geniuses. So, more people are from Claremore or the Piedmont, or...
So I would think Piedmont would bring. It depends on how Claremore's set up. I mean, that's a 3.5-hour drive.
Yeah. Right.
So obviously that's a trek. So I guess it depends on how they're set up. I mean, I know if we were to go there, we would probably have 3 or 4 buses that would help and bus people up. So if they're doing that, then there's a potential that more people would come. Piedmont, I mean, you jump in your car, you come down, you drive back up that night. So it'll be interesting to see. My understanding is they do have a strong fan base. And my understanding is they should travel decent, but I think in situations like that, they also have, they're not through OSN, but they have their own YouTube channel, I believe. So I would assume that will take away a little bit from some of the people traveling since it's so far. But I don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's the quarterfinals of state playoffs. So, I mean, I know if we were next week, if we're able to get by this one and we don't know where we're going to go, next week's going to be at a neutral site no matter what. But it'll probably be somewhere with the winner of Guthrie, Del City. It'll probably be somewhere Noble, Blanchard, Newcastle, maybe kind of somewhere in that type of area.
That wouldn't be bad.
No, that wouldn't be bad at all. And I would expect we would bring the house.
We could bring the house to Blanchard.
Right. But so it'll be interesting to see kind of what Claremore brings. But I think they'll have just as many as Piedmont because, like I said, Piedmont was a little disappointed with the amount of people. But again, I think some of it when you travel on the road these days with the access to high school football that channels like OSN and things like that. And like I said, I mean, yeah, I encourage everybody to come to the games, even though I do it on OSN, because you can watch it on Saturday, you can watch it on Sunday. We want to cater to the people that are the grandmothers, and with us being a military community, we cater to a bunch of people that are out of town and overseas and wherever. But I think that does play into it. I mean, I know when I was playing high school ball, if we got on TV, it was a great occasion, Yeah. So it was not often. I mean, I think in high school I might have played where it was videoed 3 different times in my 4 years, and I mean that was just a monumental occasion. And it was only on a little local channel. It wasn't like streaming wasn't even around at that point. But so I think that does play into kind of how the fans travel and things like, especially when it's 3.5 hours. I mean, if it was an hour, okay. So that's why I was a little kind of thought Piedmont might bring a little bit more, but it'll be interesting to see kind of how Claremore travels.
Now, it's also hard to travel when you know you're going to lose.
Well, we won't go there necessarily. We think Derek will. We think we will win. And
no. When I said that, I meant Piedmont.
Yeah.
I mean, there were several fans that showed up late and left early, and they're like just checking the box. I'm like, I'm glad. I mean, by the way, we had a number of fans the entire game.
Yeah.
We were 20-0, and I left and after the last play, and I mean there were still plenty of fans.
Well,
it went a halftime game and we bailed.
Well, my wife and kids, I mean, like you said, I mean, standing room only, can't get anybody. They watched the whole game from the track. I mean, they were on the track the entire time because my wife was like, we got a 7 and a 3-year-old, so it's a little bit difficult for them, whatever, to sit in the stand. The 3-year-old doesn't want to sit anyway. But they watch it so I mean, that's a cool atmosphere too to allow to kind of that overflow in there. And I mean, kind of talk a little bit. I mean, not asking you to give us X's and O's and things like that, but I mean, I know you've been at pretty much every game, just about. I mean, talk about kind of what you've seen from the team and how awesome it's been this year on this ride.
Here's what's cool is a lot of really good teams. It's like they hit their perfection mark or whatever you want to call it year 4.
Yeah,
and we're not at year 4.
No, in 5A. Yeah, year 2. Right.
This is not our swan song. I mean, this is not we don't have a ton of seniors aging out.
Right.
This is not our swan song.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's exciting.
Yeah.
To know that, hey, we come back next year and it's not a rebuilding year.
Right.
Next year is another year of great football.
And that's part of building a program. I mean, it's been a 4-year journey for Coach Wyatt since he's been here, and those seniors have kind of been through a lot. But like you said, I mean, you've got a ton of kids on the team. You lose some good seniors. Don't get me wrong.
Without doubt.
Matt Lund to be an all-time leading rusher, Keith Ferguson, Jack Angeli, Michael Asola, just to name a few. The Crabtrees. I mean, and we can go on and on. But I think there was hit. Yeah.
But we still have. I mean,
but you still have a foundation. You get your quarterback back. You get two amazing linebackers back. You get 4 of your 5 offensive linemen back. I mean, so there's a lot of things that, like I said, we're building a program now, and not just a one and done type deal. And that's one thing that will also kind of help the community as well as we can start. I mean, because as it goes 5A, we talked to Mraz a little bit about this last week. I mean, we're going to be in 5A for a while.
Yeah,
we're at the low end of the average attendance or whatever. So we're going to be in 5A for a while, even though we're a growing community. So we can build something pretty cool in 5A because in our first 2 years, second in the district, 8-2, next year 10-0, and let's see how that progresses from there. And then we can kind of be one of those. Every year we're starting preseason top 10, and that's a pretty cool place to be in.
I'm sure you remember all the negative Nancy's that we went from 4A to 5A. They're like, we're never going to win again.
Yeah. Right. Because, I mean, it was not prior to that. I mean, it wasn't pretty in 4A. But, it just kind of clicked right at the right time, and the kids kind of that had been in that program, Chalmer had enough time to kind of build it and get his philosophy and get his standards into the program, and now we're seeing what that can do.
I was talking to some Piedmont fans last week, and they were moaning and groaning about going to 6A.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you another really nice thing is, I mean, there's probably 6 or 8 Piedmont fans, and one of them knew who I was. So like, hey, how'd you get this thing built? And it's like, hey, guys, we have amazing voters that passed a bond issue that pulled off a really nice football stadium. And they're like, yeah, we don't have this.
Yeah.
And, what's interesting is, parking was crazy last week. I mean, I parked way over by the high school, whatever. But in Midwest City, the parking was way worse.
Yeah.
I wasn't even, near the stadium. And, I mean, we have a really nice facility. And not just for football. I mean, we have, nice facility for,
Performing Arts Center is also.
Yeah. And so we have a truly modern school.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, in coming years, we'll build more, we'll modernize even more. But what we have right now is really great. And again, it's all because people voted for a bond issue and allowed that, made it possible.
Well, and when we have these home playoff games, things like that, it's an opportunity also for us to show those off.
Oh,
not only just for the fans that are coming down, but I mean, you got to think a ton of people watch the OSN game this week too. So I mean, you're watching that, you're seeing that. I mean, it's a cool situation.
And, we also had one business owner that stuck a 12-foot banner out at Kenny and 17 that said, you can play here, home starting at whatever the number was, and they did that for the MAC game, right?
Right.
And so that hopefully the best players at MAC say, hey, I'd rather play in Elgin.
Right.
Let's move to Elgin.
Right.
So
that's the nature.
Good deal. Yeah, that's the nature of the beast. I mean, that's what happens when things are clicking and things are going well. So,
well, sir, I had a few more questions I was going to ask you, but we're at that time right now, so I'm going to go ahead and give you the final words. We're going to move from there.
Like I said earlier, 8 new prospective businesses want to come to Elgin. We won't get them all, but here's the thing: we'll get additional to those 8 as well.
Right.
That sales tax is going to make it where then we can go and hire another SRO, school resource officer, build more sidewalks, do things to push Elgin along, and push Elgin in the right direction. City Council, by the way, 2 council meetings ago, approved a plan to build a sidewalk from the football field to the new baseball fields.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that'll be a pretty dramatic sidewalk.
I think they're starting on that because I see some.
Well, so
okay, so that's something different.
that is
track.
that's a $500,000 sewer line rehab project.
Yeah, I see some trucks and things like that on that way. Okay.
But by the way, sidewalks. If you really want to help a school out long term, sidewalks save the school a tremendous amount of money because it's less dirt, less mud that gets tracked into the school.
Okay.
And so if you talk to Superintendent Mraz, he loves sidewalks because he understands it helps the bottom line. And by the way, it also makes us, more fit, all this other stuff. And then also what we want to do is when we build sidewalks going forward, we want to build them with those milestones in there. And so you'll be able to know that, hey, this section is a 1/4 mile. So if you go there and back, it's a 1/2 mile. Again, if we measure it, then we're more likely to, push ourselves to go the extra, step.
Okay.
And again, just hopefully be a healthier city.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect. We had 1 SRO for years. We went to 2 SROs this year. My sincere hope is that either next year or the year after we get to 3 SROs. Right now we have 1 in the high school, 1 in middle school. The hope is to add 1 to the elementary. Because, the younger you can get a kid on the right track, frankly, the cheaper it is.
Yeah.
The better, it actually works better that way.
Right.
Would you rather coach a kid as a junior in high school or would you rather coach him as a freshman?
Right.
It works that way. There's a lot of great things happening in the city. A lot of infrastructure repairs that, kind of been deferred that we're trying to make. In December, we're actually putting forth some road plans for that roads tax that they passed earlier this year. Yeah. It will be the most aggressive road plan that any city our size has ever thought about doing. And we also put Watts Road on the agenda to get it fixed. So Watts Road from Tony Creek to 75th has been in pretty bad shape for for far too long.
Yeah, we're right outside of we're on the corner of Tony Creek and Watts at the moment.
So you know where Watts is.
Yeah.
And Watts, the issue with a lot of roads in Old Town Elgin is the grass has just come in on both sides of the road.
Right.
Broke it down, and so this 22-foot road is now 18.
Right.
We've got to go back in, mill it, square it up, and make it right.
Good.
So again, we're just going to continue to fight to make Elgin a better place. Tell you what, I've always been, ever since I was in newspapers, and by the way, one of the first things I did was sports photography when I was really young journalist, and covered Ellick the year they went to a state championship.
Okay.
Now, by the way, it's a little different because it's 8-man ball.
Right.
So 48. If you're up 48 over your opponent at half, you go home.
It's done. Right.
Hey man, I was there, dog. I grew up playing that sport.
But the problem with that, by the way, is as a reporter, if you don't get your photos at half,
you're done.
You're done. and then you go home and your editor's like, "Where's my photo?" And it's like, "This is what you got." And then your check short. So like you learn to snap what you can in 8-man ball. Yeah. But I've always been that guy that goes to every football game.
Yeah.
And man, right now is the time to go to Elgin football. I mean, like, there's just no reason not to be in the stands.
Yeah. So,
and I'll tell you what, I mean, like, the sheriff's department's been really good to work with us. Mraz has private security as well, and so we've done what we can to make the games as safe as possible. And we're going in the right direction.
Well, JJ, we thank you a ton, man, for joining us. Always good to catch up. I know we see each other a decent amount around town and things, but always great to catch up and glad to hear your perspective, kind of how all this is rolling in together and making Elgin a better place to live and making Elgin a better place for all of us as residents and families and all that kind of fun stuff. So we appreciate everything that you do as mayor, and thanks a ton for being here.
So let me say one more thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you go out Friday night, watch the game, either eat dinner in town before or eat dinner afterwards. But we've got plenty of restaurants, plenty of ways for you to shake out a few dollars this Friday during the game.
Absolutely.
So,
sales tax.
Thank you.
You have a blessed day.
Yeah.
As well.